right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to UkeTV episode number 4. Can't believe how fast this is already moving along. Today we're doing a Behind the Artist episode, this time with Jonah Davis. Jonah, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good. How's it going, guy?
It's good, bro. It's
All
good to
right.
see you again. We've talked recently, but haven't seen you since I was in
Mhm.
Oahu.
Yeah. It's been feels like forever already, bro. It feels like it's
Yeah,
been a while.
it
Yeah.
has. I think I need to get back already.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally.
Yeah. We need to get Brian out for another steak.
Mm. Yes, exactly.
It was
Exactly.
good fun evening. So yeah, man, you've been a busy guy
Mm. Yeah.
doing a lot of different things.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know, to me it's normal, But yeah, sometimes it can be like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" You got too much going on, but I enjoy it, bro. I enjoy it.
It's good. Well, I think for those of us that maybe are not as familiar with you as I am or some, but tell me, let's take it back to the early days of Jonah Davis and music, and talk about your background a little bit, because I think we're here on a UTV episode. And I think a lot of people know you today as an ukulele artist and a ukulele teacher, and we'll talk about education in a bit. But
Mhm.
that's not your background, and that's actually not even the majority of your music career has not been ukulele.
That's right.
So
That's
yeah, I
right.
think give folks just kind of a little bit of where you come from and where your musical journey has kind of taken you.
Yeah, that's a great question, bro. I'm actually from Oahu. My Oahu, Ohana. We actually here in Nanakuli, where I live now, but I was raised in Maui, and
Mm,
so I consider myself a Maui boy. Most of my young life, all the way to my late teens and early adult life, honestly, it was all spent on Maui. Everything I know came from Maui, and um, so living there, we didn't have too much of, like blood relatives, right? Not too much. And my mom's friends became like our Ohana. And then we find out down the road that we actually are blood related, but quite distant. But anyway, it's that whole hanai thing, you just kind of adopted into the family kind of thing. But I don't know, to us it's more just, I don't know. Hanai wasn't really like a word, It's like that's just my auntie, that's my grandma, that's my cousins, and family is family, with or without blood. You know, it's a status of the heart, right? And so anyway, I spent a lot of my young days there, and growing up in the church, and my uncle he could wail, man. He was a pastor, and he could play any kind of instrument. My auntie Chubby was an amazing singer and ukulele player. Her voice is like magic, And growing up there, we used to jump into the choir and all that kind of stuff, and but I was never really like musically gifted. You know what I'm
mm,
saying?
mm.
Like I was just the kid looking in, like, wow, that's so cool. Looking at my cousins, and they had beautiful voices and they could sing and they could play, and it was such a common thing in the household. And so me not really being blood family felt like I was kind of like the new kid looking in kind of a thing, wanting to be part of the cool kids. But they loved and accepted me. They really took care of me, and that really kind of honed in for me what I wanted, right? Because to me, I saw music as family, right?
Wow.
And so it's a different perspective, right? And then growing up, by the time I got into intermediate school, I was at Kalama Intermediate, and my teacher was Rama Camarillo. He's a pretty well known educator, and his sons are amazing musicians as well. Kalai and Kamaka, So he was my teacher, and he was a great influence. And for that time, for me in my life, going through different other things like broken home situations, right? He became a real safe haven for me. And so his classes brought comfort, but it also gave me much more of a standing when it came to ukulele and understanding, and just much more of a grip on what I wanted to do. And then it continued on throughout high school, and then just kept on going. I started playing with a few other friends of mine in Maui, and then the beginning of my senior year, I moved back to Oahu. My mom had brought us back here to Nanakuli, and I ended up going to Waianae High School, where I met my brothers, who would later on become the band Kaena.
Mm.
Richard Gideon, who is now with Mauna Lua, Bronson Myers, Dominic, who is now with Rise, and so we still all do music, and then that's ultimately led me to where I'm at today, and now majority of my time is spent teaching. But yeah, it's the experiences that's taught me the most throughout this whole journey, and again, it's really downloaded the mindset of family first,
But
and that, yeah.
yeah, no, I was gonna say it's man, there's so much like I could unpack there, but yeah, I think first thing going back to the whole hanai thing,
Mhm.
that's sort of how you are a prime example of that, but how the ukulele community, especially the Hawaiian
Mhm.
ukulele Ohana, have treated me as a Halle boy living in Seattle.
Yeah,
I've kind of, I keep being told I'm a hanai Hawaiian,
yeah,
and have sort of been adopted in, and I think that's just one of the most amazing things on the microcosm of the ukulele community, but just the entire,
hmm,
just the Hawaiian community at large.
yeah,
Is if it is in the heart and it is in the soul, you can be brought into the fold. I think,
yeah,
and I think that's where you and I connected super quickly
yeah.
when we first met.
And that's an easy thing too, right? Like, because it's a choice, right? Family, you choose family too. You're
Yeah,
not always just born into it. Like on here in Oahu, like my Ohana is very, very musically inclined. My Iokia family and my Davis side here in Oahu. But again, I was raised away from them. So even though I wanted music, my Ohana, where music lived and dwelled, wasn't with me on Maui, right?
hmm
And but that's the beautiful thing, and that's why, like, I mean, I rarely use the word community, but I know it's a big word, because to me, it's family, which much more different, you know what I
yeah.
mean, which is much more deeper, much more personal, much more intertwined, right? um but yeah, it's such an interesting thing, but yeah, it's so simple to become family, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a beautiful thing. Even now as a teacher, I'm single, I have no kids, right? I always wanted kids, loved kids. So now my students become my babies. And you never hear me refer to them as my students.
No,
I always
I
say my
don't.
babies. You know
Yep,
what I mean? Is
yep.
my babies, my boys, my girls, and it's always that thing. And I take that title of uncle extremely seriously, and I love it. I adore it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just had one of my first uncle calling experiences with some of your babies in Huipu.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Shared a picture calling me Uncle Mike, and I went, "Oh man, yeah." I think my beard got even a little grayer that
Yeah.
day. And no, I mean it as a term of endearment. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it, but it was just funny. I went, "Oh, yeah, I would definitely be Uncle."
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, so I think one of the things too, going back through that history of your music,
Mm.
you weren't playing ukulele in those early bands that you were playing
No,
in, right?
no,
Yeah, so
no, I
tell us about
wasn't.
that, and what instrument you
Yeah.
were playing, and if my memory serves correctly, talk about why. Like, why did you end up on that instrument?
Yeah, and so that's a great thing. Which, today I laugh at it, but like, so I've been an ukulele guy first. I've always been an ukulele guy. Um, but when we were going through high school, and we were called Backyard Boys before we became Kaena. And then there's my brother Dominic, and he can shred on that ukulele. And then I'm playing ukulele. And then it just got to the point, like, okay, wait, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna compete, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, we all gotta find our place, right? And we have to learn how to stay into that one lane, because what we contribute in a band lends to the overall. So I ended up jumping on the guitar. I could play a little bit, from my Maui days, and um, so yeah, that's how I ended up on the guitar, brah. And then I ended up just kept going with it. And today, like I'm still a guitarist, So so whenever I play outside, like as much as I try to get my ukulele on there, like I try to gig as much as possible with my ukulele, and because I still love it, and it's my favorite instrument, I always get pulled back to the guitar. But it's a beautiful thing. And so in the island music field and genre where I've been all these years, it's definitely been my number one thing. I mean, dude, if you got a killer ukulele player like Dominic Vespoli, you don't want to be holding an ukulele next to that guy. That guy would shred you to pieces with love, of course.
Of course, of course.
Of
But
course.
like you said, as part of a band, it's what do we need, right? What's going to make
Mhm.
that overall sound? What's going to make the music that we want to make? And I assume that
Exactly.
your third, and I just drew a blank on the third member, but I assume that was bass.
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
so there's four. Richard Gideon was electric guitar, and he kind of wanted to do more of the flary stuff, which is pretty cool. I did the rhythm. Um, I really emphasize necessity when it comes to rhythm. Dominic is our lead ukulele player, and then Brant is our bass player for Kaena. And the makeup was good. Was good. Everybody had their own role to play. Nobody veered into any place they shouldn't be, and it all worked. And the energy that was created was great. It was fun. Yeah.
Do you guys ever still get together and play at all, or has
Yeah,
has that? Yeah.
it
You
happens. I
get
mean, our schedules are kind of crazy, bro.
right,
But
right.
every so often we get calls, and then we'll do gigs together. We'll jam. It's rare, but we still do. But I mean, the most we do, we maintain the fact that we'll just call each other and see what's up and how you guys, bro. Good, good, okay, love you, bro. Okay, and then keep up with each other and what they're doing. But yeah, there might be a couple of instances soon where we might do like a show together, and I know we've been talking about doing a couple of things. So we'll see. We'll see.
Killer.
Yeah.
So when you were playing guitar, this is I guess partially my interest because it's something that I've. It's not ukulele related, but it's music related. So people still might
Hmm.
find it interesting, especially those that are Hawaiian music fans.
Hmm.
Um, do you or did you play slack key much?
I not much, professionally, but I do dabble in it. You know. Yeah, I like to consider myself a jack of all, bro. I try a little bit of everything. And I'll pick up things along the way. And that's the thing, right? Music is a lifestyle, right? And it's an experience, it's a journey, and you're constantly learning from your settings and your experiences.
100%.
So every so often, like I'll run into, like, I don't know if you ever heard of this gentleman. His name is Noah Campbell. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
bro, that guy is a beast. And
Yeah.
when it comes to Slacky, and he's a young guy, he's around my age. uh he's oh my gosh, he's amazing. So I'll sit down, jam with him, just kind of like steal a little bit here and there, or permanently borrow, as we like to say. you know but yeah, so I'll dabble in everything. So I'll do a little bit of Slacky. I do play Slacky. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I'm more like in the moment kind of a player too. So just depends on what I'm doing, and I try. I'll just say that I'll try.
Well, it's not easy, and I think for those that don't know, since I brought up Slack Key, maybe you just 2 second summary of what is Slack Key guitar. What does that actually mean?
In a nutshell, it's simply like a style of playing, with various different tunings. You know, they have something called like the Taro Patch tuning, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's just there's just like, or Dad Gad, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
DAD, yeah, and then AD, and then basically the way you hold the chords, honestly, it's no different than note wise. If we're speaking of notes, it
Right,
isn't
right,
all
right.
that different. You know, but in some cases, the chord that you strum just open without holding any chord usually formulates either like a C or a G, and then from there you can pretty much piece together your own chords. And one of the craziest things about KoAloha players um, is when you're being taught something that's cool, but a lot of the times their minds are running in a different direction.
Mm.
So they're gaining knowledge as they learn, but they're also learning how to problem solve, and they're learning how to formulate and create chords based on the patterns that they experience. And that's a pretty key. That's a pretty intense key. To really listen to, because even ukulele players, there's patterns in everything you do. You know what
Oh
I
yeah.
mean? And so I try to emphasize that with my students. Start learning how to see patterns, recognize patterns, and replicate patterns, because that's all music is. Patterns are key. It's everything. So, but yeah, that's in a nutshell. Various tunings and a style of playing.
And I know they there's something like with the way you're like um,
The
picking with the
bass.
thumb, the
Mm-hmm.
bass with the thumb, and while
Mm-hmm.
you're also doing the fingers. So there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely, man, I
A
thought guitar was
coordination
hard.
thing.
Yeah, I thought guitar was hard enough to learn, which was
Yeah.
part of my journey pushing to ukulele. But
Mm-hmm.
then I started to learn what slack key was, and I went, oh no, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll listen to it. I'll listen to it, but trying to learn it, I think I'm good learning ukulele at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's a really important key about Kiwalo, is like you're playing the bass notes and you're just, going back and forth while doing the melody, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, that's a really huge key, component of Kiwalo. And that
Yeah,
is very hard.
there's a guy. He's actually a comedian. His name's Kermit Apio,
Mm,
out here in Seattle. But he also plays slack key. And
sweet.
I was at a ukulele festival up at a guy named Zach Steinley, who is up here in Washington. He builds ukuleles under the name Oceana Ukes, and
Heard of him, yeah.
yeah, really cool guy, great ukes. And he hosts a little festival at his house. He's got this killer backyard with a full blown stage and sound system, everything. But we had Kermit come out and play some slack key in the evening, just before I think just before Neil Chin came up and played some uke.
Oh, that guy's
Another
amazing.
KoAloha. Oh yeah, he dude. Yeah, I won't even go down the Neil Chin path, man. That guy, we could talk about him all day. He's crazy, what he
Yep.
does. But yeah, that was the first time I got to see it live. So it was funny. I wasn't, if the guy even caught eyes with me, he wouldn't have caught eyes with me because I was staring at his right hand the whole time, trying to watch what he was doing with the right hand. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
very cool stuff. But let's, I think you actually sort of segued right into where I wanted to go next with you, which was education. You do a lot of it, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing I'd love to hear a little bit more about is the schools you work with and your own stuff that your own personal education program stuff that you run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, talk about the school that you work with,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of what you do, because I know that takes up a majority of your time.
Yeah, it really does. The Maka Upu Uvai Aloha is a nonprofit performing arts studio, and I'm the music coordinator guy, whatever you want to call it. I just call myself the cool uncle.
Yeah, I know. I always
But
love it when you try to make up a title. It's like, yeah, I'm whatever. Whatever. I just, people know who I am. It's like
exactly, and so I've been there for about 10 years now, and now the ukulele program has grown substantially. And when I first started, there's like three ukulele kids and two guitars personally for
wow.
myself, and there was a few other instructors. But it's never come to the point where it was as organized and coordinated as it is today, which allowed it to grow substantially. And I spend a lot of my time really not just breaking kids into ukulele, but also the concept of family through ukulele, because the way I see it, and this is probably the biggest thing that I like to focus on as a musician or as a teacher, I should say. And I spent some time in the DOE, and I spent 16 years actually. It's quite a while. And I worked with autistic kids.
Mm,
So, yeah, so I have a background in special needs, and one of the things I learned is rituals and routines, right? Now, what I learned is that because they have such a hard time getting into a social an environment with overstimulating noise or people, crowds, or they're sensitive, right,
right,
to
right.
sight, smell, sounds. And so one thing I've learned over the years is that if I became the constant point of comfort or stability or consistency, it's easier for me to take them out into the community doing certain things where it would be
Interesting.
overstimulating. But as long as I'm that one constant there, that one common denominator, no matter what the changes are, um, I could get them to do a lot more different things. And so I started to discover that, right, within education. And I kind of just, ended up applying the same thing into my classes, and so if my kids enjoy hanging out with Uncle Jones and just cruising, cracking jokes, and learning and playing, and the thing about learning is that I try my best to do it in the way that you don't realize you're learning. And then when you look back in hindsight, I was like, huh, wow, I can do that. And that's
Yeah.
kind of been my spiel. And so I try to get it to a point where I really focus on relationships first. So that way the kids are much more willing to follow me to do different things and experience new things, such as performing on stage, such as becoming a solo artist. I'll push them and nudge them with them thinking that it's their choice to
Yep.
become a solo artist and perform on a microphone in front of hundreds of people out of the blue. So I've come to this point where I even start to mentor, right? And I've been doing that for a few years now. And so yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So it's not just your basic ukulele group and private students. It's all about development, social, um, what do you call that? Social experiments, honestly. You know what I
Yeah. I
mean?
mean, it's like social.
Yeah.
Well, your social growth, social. Just I think how to be more confident
Mm-hmm.
as a
Yeah,
person and how to work
that's
with
right.
others and
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing because I think you I hadn't even thought about it, and you and I have talked about your education so many times. I took my music education in as a young person was I did clarinet, and
Mm-hmm.
I learned
Oh,
clarinet, and
cool
I
people
had a
play
private
clarinet.
teacher. Huh?
Yeah, cool people play clarinet.
I
It's
thought you said old people play clarinet. And I was like, well, it's all good, but more gray hairs just keep coming out as we talk about it. But no, yeah. So I did clarinet, and I had a private instructor, and he was a cool guy. I mean, he was
Mhm,
a good instructor,
mhm,
um, but he wasn't. I didn't. There wasn't a connection. I didn't feel a connection with that person.
mm, mm,
He was a good teacher, and I learned from him. And I still remember learning the Mash theme song, and
mhm.
some of the classic TV song. You learn Hill Street Blues and things like that. I'm now really dating myself, but it's all good. You're like, what songs are those? But it's interesting. It makes me think of how would I have continued to play in junior high school and high school had I had an even more connected experience with somebody
Mhm,
who I trusted more, or who I found more engaging, or somebody that I thought was more fun to hang out with. Would I have, done
mhm.
more of that had I had that? And I think that's you being able to connect on that level. Um, it really does for that kid that is, and I'm sure there are plenty. I'm sure you have students. No matter how good your teaching is and everything else, I'm sure you have students that it starts
Yes.
to come to the point where they have to come see you, and they're probably at home going, they probably have in their head like, I don't really want to go today, but
Yeah.
knowing that they're going to have fun, and I'm sure there's
Mm.
still even times where there's kids that just didn't want to come that day,
Yes.
but once they show up and you guys start kind of kicking it, it
Yeah.
probably they probably forget about all that, and that's huge. It's you found a way to really help those kids want to learn, whether they're even realizing it or not,
That's right.
because they're just
And
having
that's the thing,
fun.
right? Yeah. And I like to call that taking the sting off learning, right?
Mm,
Because then it gets frustrating, right?
Yeah. Oh,
I
sure.
mean, bro, I'm online and I watch. I mean, I don't comment, but I'm reading what all these beginners and whatever so-called professional ukulele geniuses are saying, and I'm like, what? That's
Yeah.
stressful. That's not fun. Why would you do that? And I would never. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but I'm like, yeah, and that's what I wish. I wish we had more people that would just bring the joy out. And that's why I say, yeah, community is a beautiful thing, but family is even better.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know, and it's a
For
beautiful
sure.
thing. And I'm not downing anybody, not at all. But
No, no, no.
I see how frustrating people seem to be online when it comes to the learning experience, you know, and I'm like, that's going to happen. So you just got to figure out ways to take the sting off learning. And I do that really early on with my students, you
Well, and
know.
I think you were, you're again walking me right down the path that I wanted to go down, because there's your approach from a human and a connection perspective,
Hmm.
but there's also your approach as an educator, and
Hmm.
you just, you and I have definitely talked about this, and we've talked about some folks that, everybody has their way, and we're not
Yes.
here to
Yeah, we're all different,
say
right?
one way is better than another, but
That's right.
you approach your teaching from a bit of a different perspective. You're not looking at tab sheets, and you're not sitting
Nope.
here focusing on only the first three chords and learning how to
That's right.
play, whatever, Mary Had a Little Lamb, or Wheels Go Around, Wheels on the Bus Go Around, kind of thing.
Hmm.
um, talk about this a little bit, because it I know it resonates with me, because I also work with another artist, Andrew Molina, who you and I have talked about a bit, and I know you guys have a similar philosophy when it comes to this.
Hmm. Yeah, like, and again, it's, how do I say this without being disrespectful? Because that's not what I want to be, right?
Right.
Um, but in the ukulele world, brah. So my experience from here, right? Yes, we're all different. We all have different teaching styles, right? But at the same point in time, how do I say that? Yeah, because this, I don't want to just offend anybody, but
Yeah, and I,
at the
and I don't
same,
think it's about an offense thing. I think it's more just, this is really, it's what works for you, what works for you
yeah.
as a player, and I think what you have found works for your students. it's
uh,
not
Well,
it's
I think
not that,
it's,
because other students are learning from these other programs as
yeah.
well, but it does, and so there's nothing wrong with it. It's just what you have found works really well.
Well, I also think because I'm coming from a cultural perspective in
Mm-hmm.
ukulele
Mm-hmm.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the differences lie, right? And then that's where you kind of get into this blurry line where we all do the same thing. We don't.
Yeah. Right.
That's the bottom line.
Yep.
Like in my classes, people consider me to be a hard teacher. Why? Because I make you learn how to memorize it, because I work on habits, or just the access of information is amazing today, but what's good for one is not good for all, right?
Sure.
And if you really want to learn how to do something and build a family, you have to reach into a different style of engagement. And I'm not saying that they're all bad or they're not that great online, but it's a lot different from what I know. Like here, and in my Patreon classes as well, my online classes and my schools here, like, it's never the same. I rarely do tabs, and I do it only to accommodate some who's getting overly frustrated.
Mm.
But at the same point in time, like, I'll break the lesson up real quick. Like, you're gonna be like, where the hell is he going? What is he doing? Oh my gosh. And then you're gonna feel like you're not learning anything. But again, I'm screwing your mind to make your fingers think and work.
Mm.
At the end of the day, you find yourself with better rhythm, which is a big thing, right? People disregard rhythm. People disregard feeling time versus counting time.
Mm.
99% of the people online are counting one and two and I'm telling my students, sway, move, feel, stop thinking, do this, do that. Your job is to watch and follow. It's a cultural thing. If you learn from a master, they don't write things out. You
No.
don't tell them what you want to learn. You're told what to do. And your first and last instruction is watch, do, no, yeah. You see what I'm saying? And then
Yep.
so it's a whole different perspective. So I still come from that lineage of education, right? Because it's still a family thing. No, 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 do this, babe. Da 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 da. And it's very short. Watch, pay attention. You go away, you practice, you follow, and then you keep on playing, and you put it into practice. So it's a whole different ball game where it's and it's not a bad thing, but it's a very Western way of thinking about music,
Hmm.
right? Everything has to be like, bro. I sit into classes, and then they're beautiful students and they mean well, and they start bringing up all these theoretical whatevers, and I'm like, it sounds great, sounds amazing, right? I was like, wow, ooh, yes, okay. Can you play it for me? They can't play it.
That's the
So
thing. Yeah.
yeah, so like, and again, I'm not downing anybody. So if you're watching this, please know I'm not. I'm just clarifying the difference in what we do and how we do it. Um, some people sound extremely smart but unable to do it, whereas I seem very simple and just real simple minded, like the guy in the backyard. That's me, you know. But I can do it. My
Yep.
my my thing is to take all the fluff out of learning and take it down to the most important part. This is here. Simple. Let's not make it harder than it is. And because the amount of access to information, not all information is right information, right?
Hmm.
You know, so it gives people a lot of options, which is true, but sometimes they get lost in the noise. And so when it comes to my teaching, it's very organized chaos, but it's extremely organized.
Yep.
I'm an observer. I'm a problem solver as a teacher. But I also put you in places that gently nudges and pushes you off a cliff. You know, like I want you to know that I'm throwing you off without you being afraid.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and that's kind of the goal. And the thing about it is that it's not like you do it; it's we do it. We do it together. Yeah, and so it's a whole different approach. And again, um, not to slight anybody, but people come into my classes telling me what they think they should know. But honestly, I don't move you up until I think you're ready,
Yep.
and that's the difference, right? You know, and online you have like people with like different 5 to 10 different instructors, and they're just all spread out, and some of them is like, and I'm not learning anything, or I'm not this, but I love this. This is so cool. I want to do that. Oh my gosh, it's like a kid in a candy store,
Yep.
but they really get no internal satisfaction from it. And so
And
I
that,
tend
and
to focus on that.
and I've experienced that myself as a student. I felt it. I found it even more so in the guitar world, where I
Hmm.
was just I was so lost, and there was great little bits of material from instructors, but they were struggling to figure out how to help me put it together to where I could actually play. And I think
Right.
that's one of the things that the way that I sort of summarize, and it's not 100% accurate, but it's kind of like book learning versus street learning. And
Yeah.
you're kind of a street learner. You're a street teacher. You
Hmm.
kind of are like, let's just get in there and do it. I'm not going to worry about
Hmm.
I'm not going to worry about tabs. I'm not going to worry about. I want you to listen. I want you to feel
Hmm.
it. I want you to
Yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
and that's where I talked when I mentioned Andrew Molina's name, and then also the great uncle Chemo Hussey.
Hmm.
He was the very first person, one of the very first people to teach me anything in person.
Hmm.
And that's how it was. It was not. We didn't write
Hmm.
anything down or anything like that. He just said, "Go
Yeah.
grab your uke and
Yep.
watch this, and then let's do it."
Hmm.
And I think the thing that does that where things can it's not that you can learn how to play the ukulele either way.
Hmm. Either
There's
way,
nothing wrong
yes.
with it. You could learn your chords, you could learn, chord progressions, you could learn your music theory, you could learn
Hmm.
bar chord, you could learn all that stuff. I think
Hmm.
one of the things that I notice where you start to get some of the subtle differences is there's a things like the when it becomes time to actual play and
Hmm.
perform, there's a natural sound, like things just sound very fluid and natural
Hmm.
when I see somebody who has learned things from just by the more listening and feeling approach, where
Yeah.
sometimes the book learning piece of it can sometimes make people a little bit mechanical.
Yeah.
They can play the
Exactly.
same song. They could play the exact same song, and you'll know
Hmm.
it's that song. But you'll
Hmm.
you'll you'll feel or hear some subtle differences between the two. And
Yeah.
again, that's not a catch-all. There's plenty of
Hmm.
people that book learn and
And they're
are
amazing, right?
beautiful
Yeah.
players, and there's plenty of
Hmm.
people that learn from street and still can't play a song very well and whatever. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a whole spectrum of it. But just if I had to sort of bucketize it,
Yeah.
or categorize
Yeah.
it. That's sort of how I think about things. Is it's in any education thing that you do, there's book learning and there's street learning. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether it's music or I do photography as well, and I
Hmm.
99% of my photography came from street learning, just getting
Uh-huh.
out there and doing it.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to just do things very quickly and adjust to any situation.
Hmm.
That sometimes the book learners take a little bit longer because they're automatically going to their library in their brain
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to adjust to
Hmm.
the thing as opposed to just feeling it and doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that just because of the way that you learned, your brain's going to try to process one way versus the other.
Hmm. And that's kind of one thing that I focus on a lot, actually, is like teaching you how to problem solve, and that's a good analogy, street learner, because at the end of the day, you know, I'd rather you be there and add education paper wise later, because I actually have students with master's degrees in music and they can't you know, gravitate to where I want them to be. They're amazing on paper, and
Mm-hmm.
that's good. You know what I mean? But what they're trying to get, paper cannot satisfy, and they're trying to figure out how to take all of this that they've accumulated through education and internalize it so that they can give it back in sound, right? And they can show their heart and their emotion and their love and their passion for it through that
Yep.
way, and they have a
Yep.
hard time reconciling the two, you know and I can't read music per se, but I got enough ukulele or music theory behind me over the years, to make sense, of what I'm doing. And, it's just one of those things where it's just dependent on the path you go. But if you're going to be a student, my suggestion is find somebody who can take you out of the community and put you in a family, because you're going to gain more that way. you know it's a lifetime situation, and that's the difference, right? There's a lot of people that want to do it, and the learning gets too hard and frustrating, or the time gets too hectic where they can't make it, and then they fall off the boat. But if they're in the family, it's a lot easier for them to come back real quick. Like, oh my gosh, I need to hurry up and get there. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I have students like that, like, oh my gosh, Jonah, oh, I hate that I have to miss, but hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Yep, of course, right? Because yeah, you're a student, but you're also my family. You know what I mean? So, don't worry. Call uncle. Uncle come grab you after. Right? Talking in pigeon.
Right. Yep.
Call Uncle Bombay. That's the word
Yep.
for
Yep.
call me
Yep.
later. Yeah,
See, we give some pigeon lessons
exactly.
in our session here. Um, hey man, I'm working on my Hawaiian too, and it's there's Hawaiian and then there's pigeon, and I get sucked into both because I talk with you guys and I
Mm.
you guys throw both at me, but I'm
Yeah,
working
yeah.
on it. I'm working on it. But no, I think that's going back to what you were actually saying was it is hard. I mean, I have a full time job and I've also got kids and We got dogs that you may or not be able to hear. We'll find out from the recording later, but there's a dog barking upstairs right now.
Yep.
So things get busy, and you don't always have time to put every little thing in, and it
Yeah.
is frustrating at times. And there's times where you just you hit you'll hit walls in anything you do, and I think that's where that Ohana comes in. Is it helps you break through those moments, because when you're just in a online program and you have no one there to back you up, whether that's with the actual playing or emotionally, when you're just beating your head against a wall and you just want to throw your ukulele because you just can't figure it out, right? And we've all been there. You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. you know that's where that connection really comes into play, because if we were doing a 3-way call with Andrew right now, he would be dying laughing, because he knows, right? Like, he's seen me in some pretty frustrating times where it's just like, I cannot figure this out. I can't get it, and so having someone talk you through and being able to break it down further, right? Like, because maybe there's a component that one of my peer students probably just got it right away, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just struggling. So how do we break it down for Mike a little bit further, so that, he can, let's get a win on this piece.
Yep.
And then this piece, and then we'll get it to this piece, and
you know
that
what,
gets
and
hard.
you bring up a great point, because it depends too on what you're learning, right?
Yeah.
And if you're doing like an instrumental, right, and then you're doing an instrumental piece, all the frustration gets real, bro,
Yeah.
because your fingers don't do what you want it to do, right? And what your mind is thinking, what your body is feeling, your fingers are not responding.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's where the frustration really kicks in, right? And so for all the listeners out there and watchers, my biggest advice for that is to simply put it down, come back. If not, crack a joke, have a smile, and get over it. Like, it's
Yeah.
that simple.
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
simple of a process, because, and I found this over the years, that I've learned more in short spurts than I did in long sessions. And when things got really difficult for me, like, and that's one thing I had to learn over the years as well via experience, is that just do it real quick, put it down, come back later. You'll get it. You know what I mean? If you train yourself to stay calm and relaxed the whole way through, you'll be fine. You'll learn it. Maybe not today, but you'll get it.
Right.
And I think it's that mindset that I really try to get my students to think about, like, to really learn that. Make that like an everyday mindset. No matter what you're doing, doesn't matter, it's music or work. You'll get it. Again,
Yep.
maybe not today, but you'll get
Right.
it. You
Yep.
know? So just put it down, crack a joke, go watch Netflix. Or if you're watching TV, some people still like to watch the news, just sit down and strum quietly to work on your stuff. Make it a habit. And that's the
Yep.
one thing today people don't do. They don't make it a habit. I
Yep.
always emphasize this to my kids. Hey, you guys playing video games? Yes, uncle. Okay, you know those intermissions in between your video games? Yeah. Okay, strum your ukulele or pick on whatever's. I never tell my kids to practice, even my
And
adults.
you're not telling them to put the controller down.
Not at all.
You're
I'm
telling
just
them,
saying,
hey, when
fit
you're
it
having a
in.
break.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because then when you do that, you find that your body naturally responds and your hand naturally acclimates to what you're trying to do,
Yep.
because your focus is not on this. Therefore,
Yep.
it's not as frustrating.
Yep.
You're still watching
Yep.
those short little storylines in the video game, or, yeah, small things like that.
100%.
And yeah, and it makes it so much more easier. Then they come back and they're like, oh, uncle, I can do them now. Oh, good, good, babe. All right, next.
And I
You know
think
what I
that's
mean?
and I think this will be, we'll transition to a new piece in a sec here, but I think that's one of the interesting things about today, is that people, they're not building the habits, but then they want also the quick reward. They want the quick
Yeah,
payoff. And it's
it
like,
doesn't happen.
okay, you're not understanding that if you're not doing the practice, you're not getting the payoff. But when you said it may not happen today, I step back even to my own self and go, bro, what's the hurry? Like,
Yeah.
what's the goal here? Am I trying to, I play ukulele as a means for, dealing, just because it's just so fun and makes me smile,
Hmm.
but also as a way of dealing with stress, anxiety, depression,
Exactly.
all of it. And
Yeah.
so then why am I in this rush to master this song, for example? Like, I'm not going on stage tonight, tomorrow, in a week, in a year. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not going into a recording session. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm
Mm.
doing it because I love it. So
Right.
just enjoy, you know, Jesus, just play a couple of chord progressions for that day, or do
Yeah.
your C scale warm up if you're just
Hmm.
not feeling the more complex thing. Worry about that tomorrow because your brain is just not getting it today.
Yeah.
Like it really is the day you stop making it fun, or the day you stop enjoying it, is when it's going to start to slide backwards, or like you said,
Hmm.
you're going to have people that end up quitting, and that's
Yeah.
the last thing you want. So like, keep it fun, keep it small sections. Don't,
Yeah.
if you're not making the progress that day, put it down, break it down smaller, come back to it. you know it, it's not a rush. There's not a
No.
rush to it.
It's not a rush, and that's the thing with the online world. This is the problem with our current day and time, is that everything is immediate gratification, even for our older folk.
Oh yeah.
Me at the ripe old age of 41, like you want things, you want it now, right?
Yep.
But then, we remove, because of, again, the access, right? The easy access to so much things. We expect things to come for us easy when we're trying to personally do them. It doesn't
Yep.
work that way. And this
No.
is why I put it into a relaxing space. This is why I try my best to make it fun and personal, because it is a long-term thing. It is not something you just come up, feel like doing for 6 months, and you're on stage doing a thing. Or, sometimes you don't want to be on stage, but sometimes you do, right? It
Yep.
takes time. Even being on stage, you got to
Yep.
learn how to stand on that stage. You got to learn how to use a microphone. You got to learn how to use, your pickups, because, okay, you just plug it in and play. No, not at all.
You're right. Right.
How are
There's
you
a reason
touching
why
your
we have sound
strings?
check.
There you go. And what about the nuance of sound? Like, how are you trying to create emotion through sound if you're just tack 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 versus bing with a ring,
Yep.
at
Yep.
the edge of your
Yep.
plug? So there's so much that's in there. So, I try my best to encourage people to just do it in a relaxing way. If anybody has a stressful situation, it's me, right? But I keep it fun. I crack jokes every single day because I don't know how many private students. Do you know what it's like and they all learn different songs.
Right. Oh God.
I gotta, I gotta know all of this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll come inside and they'll be like, "Hey, Uncle Jonah, have you heard this song? It's from TikTok," you know? And I'm like,
Oh boy.
"Oh, not TikTok." And then we're cracking up and they're like, "Yeah, Uncle, this one." Teaching it right there on the spot. you know
Well,
I'm breaking the song down in every session. And then, so, yeah, it gets frustrating, right? It's something that can become overwhelming, but crack some jokes, make it light, go do something different. You know what I mean? Talk story. How's your day? Do something to take the sting off that learning process, but understand that it doesn't happen overnight.
no.
you know so, but if you're having fun in the learning process, you'll be fine. You're not going to quit, not at all. But if you're not changing your mindset to where I want you to be, you're going to constantly be struggling. you know and that's the biggest thing. And so, for all the ukulele, some people think I'm too hard. I'm like, what? I'm the easiest teacher out here, bro. You know what I mean? But it's because of their fear
Yeah.
of that
100%.
stuff.
Yep. Yep.
And again, they're just too hard on themselves. So, yeah, that's
That's
that's a
awesome
big.
though, man. That you approach it that way.
Yeah.
And and even for those that you're helping them through, you're not just going, oh, well, maybe I'm not for you. And there
Yeah.
are always going to be some that aren't, but like
Yeah.
you're always there to try to help through, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. You
Um,
know.
all right, so one more, and this is kind of a two-part thing, but let's talk about the this little brand of ukulele that you play, and this little company that's been building ukuleles for a little while called
Oh,
KoAloha. Let's talk about KoAloha a little bit.
KoAloha. I love them. They're
KoAloha.
amazing. Mm-hmm.
I do not disagree. I think they're awesome. As you know, I think they're awesome, and not just the ukes, but the people behind it. We'll talk. I'm
Yep.
going to put the people behind aside for a sec, or maybe it ends up being part of your answer. But how did you start playing with KoAloha? Like where? Like was it? And
As a
maybe you've told me
guitarist?
this, but I might forget it. Oh, really? Is that how you learned about a KoAloha?
No. Well, so I met them through my brother Dominic. Uh,
Mm,
Dominic Vespoli. We were in a duo at the time, Tropic 50. And I met him about 2013, 2012. I think 2013, I want to say. 2013, 2014. That's when I first met them. So honestly, I wasn't a sponsored, supported, whatever artist,
right,
honestly, at the
right.
time when I first met them, right? So, and it wasn't like that for a long time because I was a guitarist, you know? Um, I was just there because Dominic was there. Dominic was their sponsored artist.
Oh, that's funny.
You know what I
Got it.
mean? But then, um, yeah, but then I met them, and dude, I just fell in love with all of them. You know what I mean? I was like, bro, these guys are so cool. Had nothing to do with the ukuleles, right? Which I thought was fantastic. But I mean, bro, in the beginning, I just thought they're the coolest people. And I was just so intrigued with the building process. And obviously, I love the way the ukuleles sound, right? And
Sure.
I'm always been an ukulele guy. Nobody knew that. They didn't even know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they just, you're just the guy who plays guitar for Dominic Vespoli. And so, but that's where it started. And I
Yeah.
remember visiting the shop. Everybody's working. Bro, I used to bother them. Like, just
Used
because
to?
they're
Used
still
to?
today.
I was gonna say
I
used
still
to.
do. But back in the day when they didn't know me, bro, I was so intrigued with everything they did and how cool they are. Like, bro, they're kolohe. They're fun, down to earth guys. Great, good hearted, funny guys.
Yeah.
And so I used to visit the shop without Dominic. I mean, just to go. Like, if I was in the area, I would stop by and I would go upstairs. Brian is working, and I'm just staring at Brian. Brian was like, "The hell is this guy doing?" Like,
Are you talking about years ago? Or are you talking about last week? Because I
oh,
think you
both,
you
bro.
definitely still do that.
I still do that. And that's what it is. And I loved it. Grizz would be working on custom stuff, and they were still in Kalihi at the time before they moved to the Ala Moana shop.
Yep.
And I would just stare and bother Grizz, like just stare and just watch. I just like watch, bro. And I knew he was busy, but but Grizz is so cool. Like, he doesn't. Yeah, he just lets me do the thing. He
No,
try and
no,
answers the
now I
questions.
understand. You're the reason why when they moved to Ala Moana that Grizz got his own room with a lock. So someone can't just show up and stare at him.
Hey, it doesn't matter now. I still walk in there. What's up, bro? What you doing? And that's really, honestly, that's how it started. And then well, that's how I met them anyway. And
Yeah,
then, so
yeah.
yeah, I'd bother them, bro. I'd bother them. And, but I was still working full time in the DOE, Department of Education. And I finally left the DOE in 2018.
Mm.
And I was around Christmas time. I stopped into the shop and I was actually going to take my ukuleles to get some, adjusting done and just maintenance stuff, check, make sure everything good. And
Yep.
then Brian wasn't in at the time, but Paul. So I had lunch with them. I was just hanging out. So then I dropped off goodie bags for Christmas. You know what I mean? We always do that kind of, right? Just aloha them, and just
Yep.
take something for the shop. And then Paul was like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, no, nothing. And I haven't seen him for a while at that point because I just got super busy with work, ministry, teaching, because I'm also an ordained minister, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all these things. And so I haven't seen him for a while. But anyway, I went there. And then Paul was like, oh, so you're not working anymore? I was like, no. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to do music full time, and that's why I left. So I just didn't know where to go. Didn't fully have a vision yet, but I just knew I was going to continue teaching, continue gigging, yada, yada. And then he was like, hey, would you mind working at the shop? And I'm like, I wasn't so sure. I was like, oh, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a hands-on kind of guy, bro, and then I was like, well, yeah, okay, maybe, maybe. And he's like, oh, I'll tell you what, because Brian was on vacation. I'll tell you what, I'll have Brian call you when he gets back from vacation. So he ended up calling around January, and then he was like, yeah, you want to try, Jones? I was like, well, let me know. So I finally gave in, and I said, okay, let's try it. And I was in the stringing room for a little while. But I mean, at that point in time, I was considered to be like kind of an artist, or I guess, or whatever's. But I was in the stringing room, learning whatever we had to learn and doing whatever we're doing, and I just found it to be so relaxing, bro. And it became the best thing I've ever done. So for 1 year, I worked for KoAloha, and it definitely changed my view, and it introduced me to this ukulele world that I didn't know existed, right? Because I'm in
Yeah.
island music, and I'm doing all these things and teaching, not realizing that people had online classes, and here I am building a school, right? Or working on
Right.
on building a program here, and yeah, I didn't realize how big the ukulele was at that point. And so for the whole year in 2019, I worked, and then COVID happened. And then, yeah, so I've been just doing full time music and education since 2020. Um, Even though I've been doing this pretty much like a full time job all my life, it seems, since I was 15. But yeah, that's how I met them, and then, but I got to know them on a much more personal level. I got to see them. I already thought they're the coolest guys ever, bruh.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hella cool guys. Super
Yeah.
fun, super down to earth.
100%.
100% really sweet guys, bruh. And
I mean,
then,
all the way from top down. Like, you're not just
exactly.
talking about like all the line guys and everything else.
No, that's
It
right.
literally starts at mom,
Mm-hmm.
pops, Alan,
Yep.
Paul,
Yep. All the way down. Yes.
Brian.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, Brian.
Some, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Should
depends.
we cut that part out? Now we'll
Nah,
leave it in.
leave it in there. I wanted to hear. Nah, nah, nah. I love Brian. He's one of my best friends.
100%. No.
He's one
Everybody
of my
knows
best
Brian.
friends.
Everybody knows
Yeah,
Brian.
exactly, dude. Yeah, so
It's it
that
it, it
1 year
yeah.
allowed me to meet people and just experience their daily shop. Dude, I'm not into hacky sack, right? I don't do that kind of stuff. But after lunch, bro, they're all down there playing hacky sack. They're doing things together as a family. You know what I mean?
Well, and
Like,
let's step back even to the lunch.
yeah,
So most people don't realize is that I mean, KoAloha, it's a family run business, but
literally.
it's not all
Yeah,
Okami folks
right.
as employees, but
Hmm.
it's run definitely by the Okami family, but
Hmm.
everybody is Ohana,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and they have lunch together every
Yep.
day. Everybody that's there, pretty much on site,
Yeah.
goes upstairs at lunchtime, and
Hmm.
there's a buffet of whatever it is that day, and they have lunch together. So like even
That's
starting
right.
before the hacky sack, they're having lunch together,
Hmm.
and sitting
That's
there
right.
together, and I think
Alan,
it's
but yeah, so Alan is cooking. He's a CEO, and he's cooking practically every day for the guys. You know,
yep,
and everybody comes up. All right, lunch. Everybody starts heading upstairs. Everybody starts eating. Everybody's talking, cracking jokes, and talking about what they did the night before, day before, or something that happened, and they're all cracking it. And you're just laughing and enjoying each other.
yep.
And definitely a beautiful thing, bro. And
And I love that that's the route that you went first, because I was going to talk about the Okami and the KoAloha Ohana.
mm,
But what's cool is that's what built your connection with KoAloha. I mean, yes,
Mm-hmm.
your bro played it, and you kind of learned about KoAloha through him. But what really got
Mm-hmm.
you excited about KoAloha was not the koa, not
Yeah.
the musubi hole, not the crown headstock, the sound, which all of
Yeah.
those things are amazing. The sound of a KoAloha uke is definitely different than any other.
Yeah.
The look of one is, I mean, when you're seeing a KoAloha, but it was the people that
It was the
behind
people.
the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about the uke that you currently play of your KoAloha.
She's beautiful. That's all I got to say. That she's actually a mango, slim body, and in fact, I have it here
Awesome.
because I was teaching.
There it
Um,
is.
and she's a 6 string,
Yep.
slim line. So it's
Yep.
a slim Imai Kalani, and it's been dyed blue, royal blue. Um, got my signature just in case you wanted to, I don't
Yeah.
know, forge a check or something. I don't write anymore.
And what about on the
Got my lo-
inside?
got my logo on the in there,
Yeah.
which is pretty awesome.
That's actually very unique.
Yeah. And because it's a slim line, I swear to goodness, bro, it is the most comfortable ukulele I own. And I'm a 6 string guy. I love the 6 strings. I mean, I solo on them as if they're fours, you know, and I just wail on them as much as I can with whatever emotion I'm feeling. And I just absolutely adore it. And the sound.
Wow.
And to me, there's no more of an organic, natural Hawaiian sound than a 6 string. It's the sound that I grew up with. And it's also not an ukulele that's commonly available. You don't see a lot of
No.
6 strings out there. They don't make them often.
No.
And KoAloha, for example, my first 6 string that I got from them, Alan had given to me. Um, and they haven't made it in like 5 years at that point, you
No, they
know?
they took a big break from it.
Yeah. And as soon as I seen them coming through the shop, and, Alan used to come downstairs and work with me in the string room every day, work with me.
Work. Sure.
And then I seen those, I was like, oh, he was like, all right. So, we worked on them, we cleaned them, and he was like, Jonesy, which one do you want? I was like, huh, for real? He was like, yeah, go ahead, man. And so, yeah, so he gave me my first Imai Kalani, and oh gosh, I absolutely adore it, bro. And then so I got this one now, and Grizz is also working on a 4 string for me, which should
Nice.
be it should
Soon.
be home soon. Yeah, sometime this year at least.
I think I
But yeah,
saw it while I was there. Because I was in his room, and I saw the
mhm.
stack of what he was working on, so I know yours was in there.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is mango actually.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
they
this is actually
do.
mango.
KoAloha they do mango
Hmm.
incredibly well. I mean, obviously
Extremely
their
well.
history is
Yeah.
koa, as
Hmm.
any Hawaiian ukulele. The core one is koa, but
Hmm.
I tell you, KoAloha does mango. I put their mango up with pretty much anybody else. They do mango really really well.
To me, their mango is the best. Like I've played
Yeah,
many different mangoes, and
yeah,
I just love it. I
yeah,
adore it. Yeah.
yeah.
So their ukuleles are
No.
fantastic. The sound that they create, and just the feel of them. The consistency is huge. You know,
Hmm.
like now that I play Koalohas, and I have been for years, and I've played every brand. In fact, I own every brand, right? Practically, and I I can't compare. My Koalohas are definitely my favorite, and when it comes to like playability, sound, it's a great in between, between mellow and like much more of an attack, right? Which is
Hmm.
much more of a hard hitting sound, and like, yeah, I got a different KoAloha for every sound, it seems. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's, yeah, the quality and the consistency. I cannot speak enough about that. Quality and consistency. You can always depend on it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And whatever ukulele you're looking into, the qualities of each ukulele and the continuity of them all in their build and their projection, their sound, their volume. They're known for volume, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and that unique, full rounded sound. And it's really the best. It really is.
No, they do a great job. But I just love, and this is where we'll sort of wrap up. But just I love how we sort of started this conversation. I mean, we're at an hour. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But we started this conversation about Ohana, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you're born in Oahu and over to Maui, and you had your hanai family, but everything being Ohana, and you're teaching about Ohana,
Hmm.
and then we got into your artistry and what ukulele company you're an artist for, and it wasn't the ukulele itself, it was the Ohana.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and and so it really does, like, we really kind of bookended this thing,
Hmm.
in really what does come down to the core of you, which is Ohana.
It's family. Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what it is. And I just want to be around people that are family, and I love growing my family. Some people have kids. I borrow other people's kids and make them my baby, and I just want families. Like, in fact, tonight, every third Thursday, I perform at Pizza Press with my students. And that is a place where parents and students get to come, to get to eat and drink and perform and support each other and build relationships on a deeper level that goes way beyond teacher student and family and teacher and vice versa and
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
It's building family. So you never hear me say a word like community, which is a great word, right? um, but to me, community is still somewhat casual. I'm Hawaiian. I love a big family. you know I just want
Yep.
family. It's cultural here, right? Out of respect, we see an elder, and a lot of us do. We'll call them auntie or uncle.
Yep.
If we see, like, like grandparents, they will say mama, papa, and we treat them as our family. We honor them, right? We aloha them. We take care of them. We provide for whoever's it may be, wherever they may be, whether we know them or not, and we love them like family. You know, and so it's the same thing. And I really do live by that. I mean, I tell my students all the time, "Okay, I love you, bro. Love you, girl." I let them know, Uncle love you. And even my online students. Before I wrap up a live class, okay, love you guys. And
Yep.
it's a real thing. And I do love them, and that's the thing. You know what I mean? So it's family, bro.
Well, I think that's how we're going to end this, man. I so appreciate your time today. This has been so much fun. I mean,
Thank you.
you and I hang out and have fun anyway,
Yeah,
but I knew that this conversation was going to be a fun one to have, because it's just, it really does go to the heart of what it's all about.
hmm,
And you're just such a super chill, authentic person.
thank you, bro.
So it's, yeah, 100%. And we'll definitely make sure that we're sharing all of your links to your school, to your Instagram, to your Patreon,
Cool.
to even also the KoAloha program that you do that we didn't talk about.
Which is
But
currently on
there's a,
hold. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's on
yeah,
hold
but it's still
for
it's
now,
it's
but
there so that when it
definitely.
does resume, that people can get in on
Mhm.
it. But
Yeah,
there's definitely places that your education is not on hold, so there's still
that's
plenty of
right.
places for people to work with you. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Jonah, bro, I appreciate you, and this has been so much fun.
Oh, bro, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's definitely a privilege, bro. I love it, bro. Thank you, brother.
All right.